Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. So this is another one from the teas I own series. So you can see right here, this is one where I own a single cake of this tea. I probably won't be getting more. I do enjoy the tea, but it may not just quite. It was very on the fringe of me picking up a few more, but I in the end decided that one is probably enough. So this is the 2004 Xiaguan 8653-3+1. So a lot of confusing numbers. I will go over those in just a second. So this was acquired from Toby through Emilio in Taiwan. So Emilio, Jade Leaf, you can check out a couple of the older episodes to see an interview with him. Great guy. Highly recommend checking out his stuff. And Toby, so thank you to both of those guys. Thank you, Toby, and thank you, Emilio. And so this tea comes from the FT, the Feitai warehouse, which is a company that basically will work through the Xiaguan factory to create certain productions and stuff like that. So they've worked through Xiaguan, they've worked through Dai before, they've worked, but they're probably more associated with Xiaguan. So usually you'll see those with FT, which stands for Feitai. So based in Taiwan, aged in southern Taiwan in their storage. So the storage there is definitely at least somewhat humid. It's not exactly the same as traditionally stored, so I wouldn't take it as synonymous to that. I would say this is more close to a natural southern Taiwan storage. We have the second and third steep here, and if you guys remember a few episodes back, I did a extended in-between-isode on the 2005 version of this tea. So quickly going over the numbers, usually for these teas, it will be, for these productions, it'll be 8653-5 for 2005, 8653-6 for 2006. So why for this one is it so weird and funny? Why is it the 3+1? 4 is a unlucky number in a number of East Asian countries, so they do the 3+1 instead, at least in the case of this tea. And so 8653 is kind of like the Xiaguan version of the 7542 from Dai. It's one of the signature recipes. It uses sort of a variety of different grades of leaves, probably averaging out to about a middle grade, so not overly tippy, not overly broad-leafed as well. I mean, take all those things with a grain of salt. There's a lot of different 8653s. Some of them are good, some of them have much worse material. Alright, so we have the second and third infusion here. We can see that it's brewing out a orangish red or a reddish orange, depending on your perspective. So it definitely is showing some signs of maturity in the color. So it's definitely oily, definitely soft on its entry. It has a very foresty profile to it, foresty pine. It has a mouthfeel that is engaging all the way to sort of like the back of the mouth and the throat. It is, I would say it's not too bitter, at least not this way, but you could still feel a lot of the strength there. As I swallow, I can feel a lot of sweetness just right here. I would say that this tea, in my experience, in the 4 to 6 times I've had it, I think it is a step up from the 8653-5. It also is a bit more expensive. So, I found the tea is generally quite solid. Another question you guys might ask is, why am I using clay when I'm usually using my Shibo? And this tea can just simply take it. It doesn't get overly bitter too easily, and I think that's just a sign of its age. I wouldn't have dreamt of drinking this tea in this fashion if it were 2006 and this was 2 years old, for instance. I think it would be just really far too rough to enjoy in this way, because with a pot like this, you could see that it slowly, the pour slowly dribbles it out. So the pour isn't as instantaneous as like the Xiaguan or the Shibo, where I can just do that and the pour is just a few seconds. Anyways, cheers guys. It's a little bit more bitter in this steep, not overly so. Sort of bitter pine is how I would characterize it. I would still say the tea is fairly warm. Some teas can be a little bit cooler, just in sort of its nature. This sort of has a really warm, soupy feeling, partially oily, and I find it to be fairly warming to myself, or to my body rather. Sort of has that tree sap syrupy thing going on. Definitely building up in strength here. We're going to give this another infusion as well. Let it go for a little bit longer. I keep thinking these infusions are going to be a little bit weaker than they are, and they're plenty strong because as I pour it out, the color starts out fairly light, and I'm like, oh, that might be a little bit too weak, but so far, so good on these infusions. And so you can just see, illustrating by example, how long it takes to steep these leaves. So the amount of time where hot water is in contact with leaf material is much, much longer when I'm using a pot like this versus the Shibo. So even if I wanted to steep this for the shortest amount of time, I'm still steeping it for about 10 seconds, for instance. Cheers, guys. Touch sour, touch woody, still pretty soft, really nice mouthfeel overall. And yeah, I am enjoying this tea. I can feel my body starting to heat up. Compared to drinking this in clay now, I definitely can feel more of the strength of the tea. I'm using about a little bit, 6.4, 6.5 grams for a 95 milliliter Yixing. So it's approximately the same ratio as I would use for my smaller Shibo. And I'm really noticing a lot more body, a lot more oiliness, a lot more thickness coming off of it. And on the negative, it might be a little bit more bitter in these middle steeps. But it is a fairly enjoyable tea. So really sweet aroma coming off of this. Looking at some of the wet leaf, so we haven't brewed this all the way out. They're about what I expect. It's sort of like a dark brownish color there, or a light brownish color, or very, very dark green, depending on your perspective. So the tea has been stored naturally, decently humid, which has allowed it to evolve for a while. I think a lot of these teas, these Xiaguan factory teas, these Feitai productions, are really made to be aged for a while. A lot of them, I think, judging from the compression, which is significant, are also meant to be aged in more humid climates, so not necessarily to be aged in Nevada or Seattle or somewhere like that, but really are created with the intent of it being stored in a place like Taiwan or Hong Kong or Malaysia or Thailand or somewhere like that, somewhere that's going to have significant humidity. And yeah, I think that just about concludes this Inbetweenisode. So this is another from the Teas I Own series, trying to cover a lot of the different teas that I bought. And so yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to Toby and Emilio for providing this tea for me. I do enjoy it, and I will see you guys next time.